Havenwood was a town that lived up to its name, peaceful, picturesque, and close-knit. Tucked away from the rush of the outside world, it felt like a place time had gently forgotten, where the days unfolded with a comforting familiarity. Nestled in a gentle valley, it was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, and a friendly wave or a warm greeting was never far away. The main street boasted a bakery with the scent of fresh bread drifting out each morning, drawing people in for a chat as much as for a loaf. There was a bookshop with a jingling bell, its shelves lined with well-loved stories and new arrivals, a favorite stop for young and old alike. And a town square shaded by an old oak tree, where children played and elders gathered to reminisce about days gone by. Life moved at a gentle pace, marked by the seasons, not the clock. The rhythm of planting and harvest, of summer picnics and winter gatherings shaped the year. Neighbors were friends, always ready to lend a hand or share a laugh. If someone needed help, the whole town would rally together without hesitation. Evenings glowed with warmth from house windows, the air filled with distant laughter and the clatter of dinner plates. Families gathered around tables, sharing stories and meals, while the world outside seemed to pause. Havenwood felt safe, doors left unlocked, worries few and far between. Children played freely, and the only sounds at night were crickets and the occasional hoot of an owl. The community was small but strong, with generations growing up together. Grandparents, parents, and children all shared the same streets and stories. The local school and town hall were the heart of daily life, hosting everything from lessons to lively debates, from holiday celebrations to town meetings. News was rarely dramatic. A prize pumpkin at the fair, or a rare bird sighting in the countryside was enough to stir excitement and bring everyone together. This sense of normalcy is what makes what happened next so chilling. The quiet routines and gentle days only deepened the shock that would soon follow. Havenwood was the definition of ordinary, a place where life was predictable and secure, where change came slowly, if at all. There were no dark secrets, no hidden dangers, just good people, living quiet lives, trusting in the safety of their community. But this idyllic peace would soon become the backdrop for one of the most baffling mysteries the world has ever known, a story that would echo far beyond Havenwood's borders. The contrast between what Havenwood was and what it became is truly haunting, a reminder that even the safest places can hold the darkest secrets. The day before, the silence was utterly unremarkable. A crisp autumn Tuesday, children walked to school, shopkeepers opened their doors, and the diner buzzed with morning chatter. The postman made his rounds, people tended gardens, and the usual sounds of life filled the air. There were no warnings, no strange lights, no alarms, no sense of dread. As evening fell, families gathered for dinner, lights flickered on, and the town settled in for the night. The local pub was lively, the last bus arrived on time, and the sky was clear and star-filled. Gradually, lights went out as people went to bed, leaving only the glow of streetlights and porch lamps. There was no storm, no panic, no hint of what was to come. The world outside Havenwood slept, unaware that these were the final moments of normalcy for the town. By morning, the familiar symphony of life would be replaced by an unnerving, absolute silence. Havenwood's last normal day had quietly come to an end. The transformation was instant. One moment, 500 people slept peacefully in their beds, unaware of what was to come. The next, Havenwood was empty. Not a single soul stirred, as if the town itself had exhaled and vanished into thin air. No disaster, no noise, no struggle. Just a sudden, oppressive silence that seemed to press against the windows and doors. Morning revealed a town frozen in time. Newspapers on porches, milk bottles at doors, bread cooling in the bakery, all untouched by human hands. Traffic lights cycled for empty streets, televisions flickered in vacant rooms, and meals sat untouched on tables, growing cold in the quiet. There was no chaos, no sign of violence. Everything was as it should be, except for the missing people. The air itself felt expectant, as if holding its breath. Not a single resident remained, not the oldest, not the youngest, not even the pets. Toys lay abandoned, leashes dropped where dogs once waited. The town was a pristine shell, its contents vanished without a trace. Every home, every shop, every street was untouched, yet utterly deserted. The silence was total. No birdsong, no footsteps, nothing but the hum of a world left behind. Even the wind seemed hesitant to disturb the stillness. The world outside Havenwood continued, oblivious to the erasure of an entire community. Life went on, unaware of the void that had opened. The completeness of the disappearance was the most disturbing part. It was as if the town had been erased from within, leaving only memories behind. No clues, no evidence, just a perfect, chilling absence. Not a single sign pointed to where the people had gone. Havenwood had become a ghost town overnight, its buildings standing as silent witnesses to the impossible. The stage was set, but the actors were gone. Every scene was ready, but the story had lost its cast. The silence was not just the absence of sound, it was a presence, heavy and wrong. The mystery had begun, and the world would soon demand answers. The first sign of trouble came from outside, an ordinary morning, but something felt off, a subtle wrongness in the air that no one could quite name. Thomas, a delivery driver, found the grocery shop unlocked but empty. Shelves were stocked, lights were on, but not a soul was in sight. The town was eerily quiet. No people, no cars, not even a barking dog. The usual morning bustle had vanished, replaced by a heavy, unnatural silence. Calls to residents went unanswered, and concern spread to neighboring towns. Phones rang endlessly, echoing through empty rooms. A worried daughter drove in, only to find the same unnatural stillness. Her calls for her family faded into the emptiness. Outsiders wandered empty streets, calling names into the void. Their voices bounced off empty houses, unanswered and growing more desperate. Homes were undisturbed, kettles still warm, toys scattered, TVs on, but no one home. It was as if everyone had vanished in an instant, leaving their lives paused mid-action. The evidence of life was everywhere, except for life itself. Meals sat uneaten, bicycles lay abandoned, and playgrounds stood silent. Fear and confusion mounted as word spread and authorities arrived. The town's fate became the talk of the region, drawing crowds and speculation. Police searched every house, finding no bodies, no violence, no clues. It was as if the entire population had simply ceased to exist. It was a missing persons case on an unimaginable scale. Every man, woman, child, and pet gone. Even the animals had disappeared, leaving only silence behind. Officers were baffled, walking through a crime scene with no crime. There were no signs of struggle, no evidence of panic, just a haunting absence. The town was a modern ghost story, its mystery deepening with every unanswered question. Each empty home whispered secrets no one could hear. The investigation began, but the void only grew. The more they searched, the less they understood. Havenwood's disappearance was total, and the world was left reeling. News spread quickly, and soon the eyes of the nation were fixed on the empty town. The impossible had happened, and no one could explain it. The sense of loss was overwhelming, and fear crept into every conversation. The mystery of Havenwood had truly begun, casting a long shadow over everything that followed. Investigators described Havenwood as a diorama of life interrupted. The schoolhouse was frozen mid-lesson, children's coats still on pegs, lunches uneaten, homes told similar stories, dinners left on tables, video games paused, wallets and keys untouched. Forensic teams scoured every inch, finding no radiation, chemicals or biological agents. Geological surveys showed nothing unusual. Cars and belongings were left behind. People had vanished without warning or preparation. The investigation drew global attention, but the more experts searched, the less they understood. Havenwood became a protected, silent museum, a monument to an unsolvable mystery. The town stood as a haunting reminder of 500 lives erased in an instant. The silence screamed with questions no one could answer. Investigators first looked to nature. Could a silent gas or rare phenomenon have wiped out the town? Tests found no evidence of gas, radiation, or seismic activity, and nothing explained the missing bodies. Theories shifted to human intervention, a secret government experiment, a military test gone wrong, or a mass abduction. Conspiracy theories flourished, but no evidence supported them. Investigators probed for cult activity or mass exodus, but the residents were ordinary, with no links to extremist groups. The logistics of kidnapping 500 people without a trace were impossible. Every rational explanation failed. The disappearance of Havenwood defied all logic. With science stumped, imaginations turned to the supernatural. Alien abduction theories gained traction. Could advanced technology have removed everyone without a trace? Others speculated about dimensional rifts or portals, drawing on legends of vanished villages. Some saw religious meaning, calling it a localized rapture, but there was no evidence of selective faith. These theories offered comfort or intrigue, but remained pure speculation. The silence of Havenwood became a canvas for every wild idea. In the absence of answers, the human mind filled the void with stories. The mystery was now as much about our need to explain the unexplainable as about the event itself. Havenwood's story echoes history's greatest disappearances. The Roanoke colony vanished without a trace, leaving only the word Croatoan behind. The Mary Celeste was found adrift, its crew gone, ship intact. In 1930, an Inuit village at Lake Anjikuni was discovered deserted. Meals left uneaten, dogs starved, graves emptied. In each case, communities vanished, leaving behind only questions. These mysteries remind us that even in the modern world, some events defy explanation. Havenwood is the latest chapter in a long history of human vanishing acts. Such stories challenge our sense of security and our faith in reason. They prove that some questions echo through time, unanswered. Havenwood stands as a chilling testament to the limits of our understanding. Years later, Havenwood remains cordoned off, a silent memorial to its lost souls. The story has become legend, fueling endless debate and speculation. The mystery endures not for lack of effort, but for lack of evidence, a perfect puzzle with no pieces. Havenwood reminds us how fragile our reality is, and how quickly the unthinkable can happen. For those left behind, the absence of answers is a unique, unending grief. The empty houses and silent streets are a constant painful reminder. Havenwood forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge. In an age of information, it stands as proof that some mysteries may never be solved. We must learn to live with the unknown, accepting that the universe is far stranger than we imagine. The silence of Havenwood endures, a haunting whisper of the mysteries that remain. It was a Tuesday morning, just like any other, but something was terribly wrong in Oakhaven. The air felt heavier, as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The sun rose over the hills, painting the sky in soft gold, but the town was silent. Unnaturally so. Not a single bird sang, not a single car engine rumbled to life. Arthur Penhaligon, the delivery driver, noticed it first. He was used to the gentle bustle of Oakhaven's mornings, kids waiting for the bus, neighbors waving hello, the clatter of dishes from the cafe. But today, there were no school buses, no cafe chatter, just a heavy pressing quiet that seemed to swallow every sound. He parked on Main Street, unease growing with every step, and called out, his voice echoing off empty shop fronts. No answer came, only the sound of his own heartbeat in his ears. House after house he found the same, breakfast tables set, cartoons paused mid-laugh, but not a soul in sight. It was as if life had been interrupted in an instant, leaving everything frozen in place. The entire population, 500 people, had vanished. Not a single footprint in the dew, not a single door left, swinging open. It wasn't abandonment. It was as if everyone had been plucked away mid-action, their lives paused in a single, inexplicable moment. Arthur, hands shaking, dialed emergency services. "They're all gone," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper, as if afraid the silence might swallow him too. Authorities arrived, skeptical at first, but the silence was undeniable. Even the police radio seemed to crackle more quietly, as if the air itself was muffling every sound. Police moved through the empty streets, footsteps echoing, searching for any sign of what happened. Every door they opened revealed the same eerie stillness. No notes, no signs of evacuation, no evidence of disaster, no hurried packing, no broken glass, no struggle, just absence. Just a town, perfectly preserved in its last moments, as if time itself had stopped for Oakhaven. The mystery of Oakhaven had begun, and the world's first question was the most chilling. Where did everybody go? The question echoed through the empty streets and out into the world beyond. News spread quickly, and soon, the entire country was watching. Reporters flocked to the scene, broadcasting images of the deserted town into living rooms everywhere. Investigators combed through homes, finding meals half-eaten, lives interrupted. Toys left in mid-play, a kettle still warm on the stove. Every detail, a clue. And yet, none made sense. The silence was overwhelming, louder than any noise. It pressed in on everyone, a constant reminder of the missing townsfolk. Dread settled in as the reality became clear. 500 people had simply disappeared. The weight of that loss was felt in every empty room and every abandoned street corner. The town was a ghost, frozen in time. Even the wind seemed hesitant to disturb the stillness. No one could explain it, and the search for answers had only just begun. Theories swirled, but none could pierce the mystery. The world would soon be gripped by the enigma of Oakhaven. Social media buzzed with speculation, and experts from every field weighed in, but the truth remained elusive. The silence was not just absence, it was a presence, pressing in on everyone who entered. It was as if the town itself was holding a secret, refusing to let it go. The first responders could only ask, what force could erase a town so completely? What power could leave behind no trace, no warning, no clue? The investigation would uncover no easy answers. Every lead led to another dead end. Every theory raised more questions. Oakhaven's story was just beginning, and its silence was only growing. As night fell, the emptiness seemed to deepen, as if the town itself was mourning. The question hung in the air, unanswered and terrifying. In the heart of Oakhaven, the silence was no longer just a mystery, it was a warning. Investigators moved quietly through Oakhaven, a town that seemed frozen in the middle of ordinary life, as if someone had pressed pause on reality itself. The early morning light cast long shadows over empty streets, amplifying the sense of abandonment and mystery. Kettles were still filled with water, jumpers lay half-knitted on armchairs, and televisions glowed in living rooms with no one to watch them. Everywhere, life was paused mid-action, as if the people of Oakhaven had simply vanished in the midst of their routines. The school was perhaps the most haunting of all. A blackboard with a half-written lesson, lunchboxes untouched on desks, and children's coats still hanging on pegs. It was as if the laughter and chatter had been silenced in an instant, leaving only echoes behind. In the garage, a car sat mid-repair, tools scattered as if the mechanic had just stepped away. In the bakery, dough was left proofing for bread that would never be baked. The air still faintly scented with flour and yeast. There was no sign of panic or haste, no overturned chairs, no broken glass, just a sudden collective vanishing that left the town eerily undisturbed, as if everyone had simply walked out in the middle of their day. No one took their wallets or keys, and stoves were left burning in quiet kitchens. Personal items were abandoned in hallways, as if their owners expected to return at any moment. It was as if time itself had fractured, leaving only the props of daily life behind. Clocks stopped, books left open, and meals half-prepared, all waiting for someone who would never come back. Even investigators, hardened by years of strange and difficult cases, found themselves unnerved by the silence and the sense of something unfinished lingering in the air. The evidence didn't lead to answers, only to deeper confusion. Every clue seemed to contradict the last, and the mystery of Oakhaven grew with every step they took. Oakhaven was a perfect snapshot of life, abandoned in an instant, its story left unfinished, waiting for someone to discover what truly happened in that silent, suspended moment. The entire town was left in perfect, eerie suspension, as if time itself had simply stopped ticking. Not a single person in sight, not a whisper of movement, just a haunting stillness that seemed to stretch on forever. Cars sat in driveways, keys in ignitions, as though their owners had only stepped away for a moment. Engines cold, doors unlocked, every vehicle a silent witness to whatever had happened here. A single dog, tied to a bench, whimpered, the only living soul left behind. Its eyes searched the empty street, waiting for someone who would never return. Every door was unlocked, some wide open, as if someone had just stepped out for a moment. Shoes by the door, lights still on, the ordinary details of daily life left undisturbed. No signs of violence, no panic, just peace, like a graveyard. The air was heavy with a sense of absence, as if the town itself was holding its breath. Meals half-eaten, books left open, wine glasses half full. It was as if life had been paused mid-sentence, every detail frozen in place. This wasn't abandonment, it was extraction. People had vanished in an instant, leaving behind the story of their lives and scattered belongings. Clothes in wardrobes, money on dressers, family photos on mantles, lives left behind, perfectly intact. Nothing was taken, nothing disturbed, as if everyone had simply evaporated. Drones and search teams scoured the area, nothing. No clues, no evidence, just the same unbroken silence. No tracks, no campsites, no sign of where anyone had gone. The earth itself seemed untouched, as if the people had vanished into thin air. Oakhaven was a museum of lost lives, its soul ripped out. Every building, every street, a silent monument to the missing. The silence was all that remained, thick and unbroken, settling over the town like a shroud. The investigation grew, but the mystery only deepened. Each new clue led only to more questions, and the sense of unease grew with every passing day. The town sat, waiting, empty and untouched. Oakhaven was frozen in time, a riddle with no answer, its story echoing in the silence. The most chilling detail: there was no forensic evidence, no sign of struggle, no foreign fingerprints, no DNA, no overturned furniture. The town was pristine, as if its people had simply ceased to exist. No messages, no frantic calls, no digital cries for help. Phones and computers showed only normal activity, ending abruptly the night before. The digital footprint stopped, no warning, no explanation. Days passed, and dread grew among investigators. No bodies, no ransom, no motive, just an empty stage. The clues weren't missing, they had never existed. Oakhaven was a perfect, unsolvable puzzle. The silence mocked every effort to understand. The case defied every rule of investigation. The town remained, untouched and inexplicable. News of the silent town spread rapidly, captivating the world. Live feeds showed empty streets, people everywhere watched, transfixed. Theories exploded: cult, mass hysteria, elaborate prank. Social media buzzed with speculation and satellite images. Officials promised answers, but behind the scenes, they were lost. Intelligence agencies found nothing, no threats, no chatter. Families gathered at the police cordon, desperate for news. Their grief was broadcast worldwide, uniting people in fear and fascination. The world realized, if it could happen in Oakhaven, it could happen anywhere. The town's silence became a global anxiety. The mystery was now everyone's. Oakhaven's fate unsettled the world. Investigators chased every rational theory: gas leaks, toxins, radiation. Tests came back clean. The air and water were normal. No weapon, no device, no environmental cause could explain it. The idea of a mass cult or secret migration was ruled out. No evidence, no ideology, no planning. 500 ordinary people couldn't vanish without a trace. Every logical path led to a dead end. The scene was too clean, the disappearance too absolute. No disease, no weapon, no psychological profile. Fit. The rational world had no answers. Oakhaven's silence defied explanation. The mystery forced everyone to look beyond what they thought possible. With logic exhausted, extraordinary theories took hold. Was it a rift in space-time? A mass alien abduction? Theories once dismissed became plausible. Alien abduction was the most popular, silent, sudden, and total. Some pointed to unverified reports of strange lights in the sky. Others blamed secret government experiments, desperate for a human villain. Scientists couldn't endorse the wild ideas but had no alternatives. Oakhaven had become a monument to the unknown. The event shattered the boundaries of what was possible. Oakhaven drew comparisons to history's greatest mysteries: the Roanoke colony, the Mary Celeste. Like those, it became modern folklore documentaries, books, podcasts, all ending with a question mark. The government sealed the town, fencing it off, guarded by patrols. Nature began to reclaim the empty streets. Oakhaven became a memorial to a tragedy with no graves. Its legacy, a haunting, enduring question. We can map the stars, but not explain what happened here. The story lives on, a ghost story for the modern age. The fate of Oakhaven is a blank page in history. The final chapter remains unwritten. Years later, the world has moved on, but Oakhaven's mystery lingers. For those involved, the silence never left. The exclusion zone remains, the town visible but unreachable. Guards speak of a strange waiting presence. Visitors leave flowers and notes at the fence, mourning a loss with no name. The ambiguity is the cruelest legacy. No closure, only endless speculation. Oakhaven's story is about silence, a question with no answer. The half-eaten meals and unlocked doors are just symbols of the void. The true mystery is the sudden, absolute absence of 500 lives. Oakhaven stands as a chilling monument to what we do not know. Havenwood was a quiet town, nestled deep in an ancient forest, its winding roads and weathered houses hidden beneath a canopy of green. The town seemed to exist in its own world, untouched by the rush of modern life. Here, everyone knew each other, and life moved slowly, with neighbors pausing to chat on their way to the market or sharing stories over white picket fences. Kids played in the streets until dusk, their laughter echoing between the houses as the sun dipped behind the trees. The town's 500 residents lived against a backdrop of towering pines and misty mornings, where the scent of damp earth lingered in the air, and every sunrise felt like a secret shared only with the forest. It was peaceful, almost forgotten by the outside world, a place where time seemed to slow and worries faded with the morning fog. Then, one morning, an unnatural silence descended. The birds didn't sing, not a single chirp or flutter broke the dawn. The logging trucks didn't rumble, no dogs barked, even the wind seemed to hold its breath, as if the whole town was waiting for something. A delivery driver arrived to find the town square deserted, yesterday's papers still untouched, doors closed, and not a soul in sight. He called his depot, voice trembling, trying to explain. Havenwood was empty. There was no answer at any of the usual stops, no one to sign for a package or wave from a window. Authorities were skeptical, but the silence from the local police station was more convincing than any words. No one picked up the phone, no radio crackled with updates. A patrol car was sent, expecting a simple communications failure. Perhaps a downed line or a power outage. As officers entered Havenwood, the silence pressed in, a physical presence, thick and heavy, making every footstep sound unnaturally loud. Main Street was still, shops closed, their windows reflecting only the empty road and the pale morning light. But what was truly strange was the lack of any movement at all. No curtains twitched, no lights flickered on, not even the faintest sign of life behind the glass. The town felt like a museum exhibit, frozen in time, every detail preserved as if waiting for its people to return. The officers felt a cold dread as they realized this was no prank. The emptiness was too complete, too deliberate. They were stepping into the heart of a mystery, one that seemed to deepen with every silent street they crossed. The entire town was a snapshot, a perfect replica of life, without the people. Swings hung motionless, gardens remained perfectly tended, as if everyone had simply vanished in an instant. The silence was overwhelming, as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to break the spell. The officers exchanged uneasy glances, knowing something was terribly wrong. Their radios crackled with static, but no voices answered. Havenwood, once a sanctuary, had become a riddle, its secrets hidden beneath the mist and silence. The investigation had only just begun, but the sense of unease was already suffocating. Every shadow seemed to hold a question, every empty doorway, a silent accusation. The silence was not just an absence of sound, it was a warning, a presence that seemed to whisper of things unseen, and it was only the beginning. Whatever had happened in Havenwood, the story was far from over. The officers began searching house to house, hoping for answers, their radios crackling with nervous chatter as they moved from one eerily quiet home to the next. What they found was more disturbing than any crime scene they had ever encountered in their careers. Doors were unlocked, homes left in mid-activity, breakfasts uneaten, juice half-poured, toys scattered across living room floors as if time itself had stopped. It was as if everyone had vanished in the middle of their routines, leaving behind the ordinary chaos of daily life. Each house was a tableau of interrupted life, frozen in a moment that would never be completed. The officers moved like ghosts, their footsteps echoing in the unnatural quiet. Every creak of the floorboards amplifying the sense of dread. No signs of struggle, no evidence of foul play, just absence, a chilling void where life had once thrived. The school was the most haunting. Classrooms ready for the day, drawings on the walls, lunchboxes still in bags, as if the children had simply stepped out for recess and never returned. The sound of children's laughter should have filled the halls, but only silence remained, heavy and unbroken. As more emergency services arrived, the scale of the mystery grew, drawing in teams from neighboring towns, all equally baffled. Every resident, 500 people, was gone, leaving behind a town that felt frozen in time. Not just from homes, but from streets, shops, the local clinic, and even the surrounding woods. Every corner was deserted. Cars sat in driveways, keys in ignitions, wallets on counters. Even pets had vanished, their beds untouched and food bowls full. The town hadn't been evacuated, it had been emptied in an instant without warning or explanation. No footprints, no evidence of departure, just a complete disappearance, as if the people of Havenwood had simply ceased to exist. The mundane objects of daily life stood as silent witnesses, each one a reminder of the lives that had been lived here only hours before. Havenwood was now a ghost town, its people erased without a trace, leaving behind only questions and a chilling silence that would haunt the first responders for years to come. Search and rescue teams fanned out, determined to find any trace of the missing. Tracker dogs were brought in, but they whined and circled, unable to pick up a single trail. It was as if every person's scent vanished at the town's edge. Searchers combed the forest in grids, looking for footprints or broken branches. Nothing. The forest floor was undisturbed, holding its secrets close. Helicopters with thermal cameras scanned for heat signatures. None were found. The town and its surroundings were as lifeless as the moon. Forensic teams dusted for fingerprints, finding only the residents' prints where they belonged. No forced entry, no struggle, no evidence of a crime. The scene was pristine, but the people were gone. It was a vanishing act with no missteps. Investigators were left with questions and not a single answer. Havenwood had simply ceased to exist as a community. Investigators soon noticed the technology had stopped too. It wasn't just the people who had vanished. Every trace of daily life, every hum of electricity had come to a standstill. Every clock, digital, analog, oven timer, had frozen at exactly 2:13 a.m. The entire town's sense of time was locked in that single haunting moment. Phones, computers, and security cameras all ceased activity at that precise moment. Screens were left glowing, mid-task, as if the world had simply paused. Call logs ended abruptly. Emails were left unfinished, and security footage froze on empty streets. Conversations and routines were interrupted in an instant, leaving digital echoes of lives suddenly halted. It wasn't a power cut. Devices weren't damaged, just stopped. Everything remained perfectly intact, as if waiting for a signal to resume. The synchronicity was too perfect to be coincidence. Every device, every clock, every system stopped in unison. No human force could orchestrate such a flawless, instantaneous shutdown. The scale and precision defied any logical explanation. The phenomenon ruled out mass kidnapping or planned departure. There was no sign of struggle, no evidence of panic or warning. It pointed to an event or force of immense power and precision. Something beyond human comprehension had swept through Havenwood. Investigators realized they weren't just searching for missing people, they were chasing a ghost in the machine. The town's silence was more than absence, it was a presence. The digital graveyard left behind was chilling. Every device was a tombstone, marking the exact second life stopped. The mystery had become infinitely more complex. The investigators were now confronting something that left no trace, no motive, and no hope of a simple answer. Havenwood's last moment was frozen in time, a silent record of the impossible. Every detail, every object, was a clue and a question. The town's heart had stopped beating, and no one knew why. The world outside moved on, but Havenwood remained trapped in that single, inexplicable instant. The search for answers had entered a new, terrifying realm, one where the rules of reality no longer seemed to apply. With no answers, speculation filled the void. The story of Havenwood spread online, spawning wild theories, secret government experiments, military bases, or supernatural forces from the ancient forest. Old folklore about strange lights and shadowy creatures resurfaced. Media frenzy fueled talk of alien abductions and portals to other worlds. Paranormal investigators and psychics flocked to the outskirts, claiming to sense otherworldly energy. The official narrative was drowned out by fear and imagination. Havenwood became a modern myth, a canvas for society's deepest anxieties. The government brought in top scientists, geologists, physicists, biologists, to find a rational explanation. They tested air, soil, and water for toxins or radiation. nothing unusual. Geologists found no evidence of gas leaks or seismic activity. Physicists searched for electromagnetic pulses, but found no damage or anomalies. All devices had simply stopped, not fried. No monitoring stations detected anything out of the ordinary. Every theory was dismantled by a lack of evidence. The event left no physical footprint. For scientists, Havenwood became an intellectual nightmare. The silence of the town was matched only by the silence of their data. The laws of nature seemed to have been suspended, if only for a moment. The mystery took a heavy toll on everyone involved. Investigators, used to chaos and tragedy, found only emptiness and futility. Relatives of the vanished were trapped in limbo. No proof of death, no hope for return. Grief mixed with confusion, leaving them isolated and desperate for answers. The region was gripped by fear. Havenwood became a whispered warning. Property values plummeted, tourists stayed away, and anxiety permeated daily life. Even hardened investigators felt watched, haunted by the town's oppressive silence. Sleep was elusive, and the case became a personal burden. The silence was not just an absence of sound, but a presence that wore down the spirit. Havenwood's mystery made the world feel less safe, less predictable. Some things, it seemed, were simply beyond understanding. Years later, the investigation is closed, the town cordoned off, a permanent quarantine zone. Havenwood stands as a monument to the unexplained, removed from the map. Its story is now legend, cited alongside history's greatest mysteries. Documentaries, books, and online forums dissect every detail. The synchronized stop at 2:13 a.m. is iconic, a symbol of the inexplicable. For scientists, it's a humbling reminder of the limits of knowledge. Fringe theories abound, from spatial anomalies to dimensional rifts. For the families left behind, life never returned to normal. They hold quiet vigils, hoping for answers that never come. Havenwood's silence continues to ripple outward, a question mark over reality. We're left with a simple, baffling truth. One night, 500 people vanished without a trace. No footprints, no struggle, no evidence. Just a frozen moment at 2:13 a.m. Was it a secret experiment, an alien abduction, or something ancient from the forest? Theories abound, but no answer fits the facts. The silence that fell over Havenwood still echoes, a question we cannot answer. For all our science, the world remains mysterious. The story of Havenwood is now yours to ponder. What force could make 500 people vanish, leaving only silence behind? There are places where the line between the known and the unknown blurs. Ethelberg is one of them. Tucked away in a remote valley, it's a ghost of a community. Life simply stopped here one day. The wind whispers through empty streets, carrying stories no one is left to tell. 500 people once called this place home. Then, one Tuesday in 1976, they vanished. No struggle, no clues. Everything was left behind, as if they'd stepped out and never returned. Ethelberg remains perfectly preserved. Its silence, the town's final chilling legacy. Tuesday, October 12, 1976, began like any other day in Ethelberg. Milk bottles on doorsteps, the postman making his rounds, neighbors exchanging greetings, nothing seemed amiss. By the next morning, a delivery driver found the town eerily quiet. The shop was locked, no one answered his calls. In the pub, plates of food sat half-eaten. A child's bicycle lay on its side, its wheels still spinning. It was as if everyone had stopped what they were doing at the exact same moment. Police arrived to find a baffling scene. Houses undisturbed, lives interrupted mid-motion, kettles left on stoves, TVs broadcasting to empty rooms, a chess game abandoned mid-move. In the schoolhouse, a math problem was left unfinished on the blackboard. Every single one of the town's 513 residents was gone. The search was frantic. Police, volunteers, and soldiers scoured the hills and forests. Helicopters searched from above. No footprints, no vehicles, no sign of life. It was as if the people of Ethelberg had been plucked from their lives by an invisible hand. The town was left as a perfect, chilling diorama of their final moments. No evidence of evacuation, no sign of disaster. The clocks had stopped, and so had time itself. The mystery began in silence, and that silence has never been broken. Ethelberg became a riddle with no answer, a story frozen in time. The world moved on, but the town remained, waiting, waiting for someone to explain the impossible. Decades later, Ethelberg remains unchanged, a town-sized crime scene, cordoned off from the world. To walk its streets is to step back into 1976. Cars from another era line the curb, their paint peeling but otherwise untouched. Shop windows display fashions long out of date. Inside homes, family photos gather dust, clothes hang in wardrobes, and kitchen shelves are lined with faded tins. There are no signs of panic or struggle, just orderliness, frozen in time. The town is a three-dimensional snapshot of 10:17 a.m., the moment when everything ceased. Clocks stopped, the power grid failed, and the people vanished. Investigators and researchers walk the silent streets, searching for clues that lead nowhere. Every undisturbed object is a testament to lives that simply ended without reason. Ethelberg is a museum of the missing, a place that feels sacred and profane at once. It is a town frozen in amber, holding a terrible secret in its heart. The world cannot forget the day it went silent, and the silence endures unbroken. The most maddening aspect of Ethelberg is the total lack of evidence. In any disappearance, you expect to find something. A dropped wallet, a footprint, a clue. Here, there was nothing. Forensic teams scoured the town, dusting for fingerprints, analyzing soil, testing for chemicals. They found only the expected traces of the townspeople, nothing more. No one checked into hospitals, bought tickets, or accessed bank accounts. It was as if 513 identities were erased. Even pets vanished. Dogs, cats, canaries. All gone. The only life left was the birds and insects in the woods. Cavers explored the mines. Geologists checked for sinkholes. Nothing. The ground was stable, the tunnels empty. The official investigation lasted over 20 years, ending with a single word: unknown. Ethelberg defies the principle that every action leaves a trace. How can so many people vanish from a sealed valley without a clue? It is a perfect vacuum of information, a hole in reality itself. The people of Ethelberg were not just lost, they were erased. Only their absence remains. For detectives, Ethelberg became a lifelong obsession. Chief Inspector Alastair Finch, now in his 70s, still recalls the case with a heavy heart. It wasn't a crime scene, it was a stage set after the actors had gone home. No motive, no weapon, no bodies, just ghosts. The police files are filled with dead ends and baffling interviews. No one reported anything unusual. No strangers, no strange lights, no odd noises. The town was completely normal, until it wasn't. The psychological toll was immense. Some officers quit, others returned year after year, searching for answers. They walked the empty streets, hoping the silent houses would reveal their secrets. But the silence remained, mocking their efforts. Even today, retired detectives revisit the case, hoping for a breakthrough. "You can't fight a vacuum," Finch once said. "We were fighting an absence." The case didn't go cold. It was never warm. It was born of silence, and it has remained silent ever since. For these men, Ethelberg is not just unsolved, it's a ghost that follows them still. The town's mystery became the defining failure of their careers. They chased shadows, but the shadows never answered. The silence of Ethelberg is a wound that never healed. It is a case that haunts those who tried to solve it, and it always will. While investigators searched for clues, historians searched for patterns. Dr. Eleanor Vance, a historian, calls Ethelberg an anomaly. Lost colonies like Roanoke happened centuries ago, in uncharted lands. This was 1976, in mapped modern England. Theories abound: mass hallucination, government experiments, weak spots in space-time. None are provable, all are dismissed by mainstream academics. Local folklore speaks of the silent folk, mythical beings said to walk between worlds. Old tales of vanished hamlets take on new meaning in Ethelberg's shadow. Could an ancient myth have played out in the modern world? Ultimately, historians face the same void as investigators. Ethelberg is a historical singularity, a point beyond which inquiry cannot pass. It is a story with no ending, a book with the final page torn out. For historians, the void is the most terrifying thing of all. The disappearance left a scar on the surrounding communities. Neighbors lost friends, relatives, and a sense of safety. For them, Ethelberg is not a puzzle. it's a source of lasting grief. In Oakhaven, people still speak of that day in hushed tones. An elderly woman remembers her sister Mary, who vanished with her baby. Sometimes I stand on the hill and look for a sign, but there's never anything, just the quiet. The trauma shaped the region's identity. The story is passed down as a cautionary tale, a true ghost story. Parents warn children not to wander near the valley. Fear lingers, a belief that what happened could happen again. The empty town is a constant reminder of life's fragility and the existence of the unexplained. The silence of Ethelberg is magnetic, drawing in the curious and repelling those who live closest. They feel its presence like a change in the weather. The wind carries a different sound from that direction, a coldness, even on warm days. The silence is not passive, it's an active force. It is the sound of 513 voices silenced at once, echoing through the lives of those left behind, and that echo never fades. For those with a direct connection, the mystery is a daily burden. Some were children away at school when their families vanished, returning to empty homes and shattered lives. Now adults, they are the living legacy of Ethelberg's tragedy. Thomas Reed, whose family disappeared, speaks for many. People see the mystery. I see my mother's knitting basket, my sister's school books. The world wants an answer. I just want to know what happened to my family. The not knowing is the hardest part, a weight carried forever. Survivors navigate a world that treats their loss as folklore. Their grief is overshadowed by sensationalism and speculation. Each new documentary or book reopens the wound. For them, Ethelberg is not frozen in 1976, it's alive in memory. They are the keepers of the town's soul, defending it from being forgotten. Their stories are the most important clues, not to what happened, but to what was lost. The memory of Ethelberg remains vibrant and painful in their hearts. They are the last line of defense against the town becoming just a number. Half a century later, Ethelberg stands as a monument to the inexplicable. The mystery endures, not for lack of effort, but for lack of anything to investigate. The silence that fell on that October morning has never been broken. Ethelberg reminds us that, for all our knowledge, some things remain beyond understanding. The town is a question posed to humanity, and so far, we have no answer. Theories will continue, but the town offers only silence. Ethelberg waits in its quiet valley, a story without an end. The wind blows through empty lanes, carrying the weight of unspoken goodbyes. The silence of 513 vanished souls endures. It is the town's final, haunting legacy, a question that will echo for eternity.